I just got back from ICAST, which is the annual fishing trade show where all the fishing industry comes together. And I brought these samples home because I wanted to see how they were. It's a new product from a company. Q8 Superbait is the brand on these, but it's a company called Aquatic Nutrition, and they specialize in, they grow really cool fish, and they have a fish farm, and then they also make food for those fish, and then they've developed some lures. So here's these little worms. This is some like curly tail grubs. What else do we have, Finn?
We have them in just
You gonna
black.
show these guys?
Those in black and purple.
Black and purple, a little kind of a twitch bait, jerk bait kind of situation. Here's some little trout worms.
These humongous
Yep.
silver curly tail.
Big curly tails. I'm gonna try those today. And then here's some purple little fluke straight tail kind of thing. So we're gonna try them out today. It's just kind of middle of the afternoon. It's not exactly prime time to go fishing, but it's when we have a minute. And Finn and I thought we'd take the kayaks out in the backyard and see if we can see if the fish will react to these and see if we can catch anything even when it's not prime time. And you might think, well, I mean, you guys have a private stock pond. The fish are probably like, they'll bite anything, right? But that's not true. They've all been caught so many times. So they actually get pretty selective. And so we'll see if they're interested in these. Then you wanted to do a challenge.
Yeah.
What's your challenge?
I wanted to see who could get the most fish in one day using the new lures. And whoever got the glorious fish stuffy.
Your fish stuffy?
Yeah,
Whoever-
hold on, I'll be right back.
Is that the prize? Whoever gets the most fish gets that? Okay. And so which one are you're going to try either this one or this one? Which one are you going to try? Colorful or natural colors?
I'm gonna go natural.
Natural colors. Okay. And I'm going to try out these curly tails and see what happens. All right, let's see what we got here. We'll hook them up. All right, Finny, you want the whole worm or just part of the worm? The whole thing? How come? What's your theory?
The bigger bait, the bigger fish, and yeah.
Okay, we put the whole one on there. Let's see. It looks pretty good. I can believe that'll work. The whole worm.
Yes, it looks like a...
Got a little bit of snaky vibes. Got it under our bobber there. Okay, here you go.
I'm afraid this bobber isn't gonna sink.
Let's find out what happens. It says more durable, saturated scent, and it says, I tore off the thing, but it says tastes alive, smells alive, and I would say that's true. It does pass the sniff test as smelling alive. It kind of has a scent sort of like what maybe gulp or fish bites would smell like. It kind of has that going on. Kind of smells fishy. It's a little big from this jig head, so I'm gonna take off just the first little bit of it. I'm gonna shorten this up just a little. Finny, I was just sitting here getting mine going, and Finn got one right here by the boat here. Pick him up again. I can't believe that. Right out here in the middle, one grabbed it just as soon as we were putting it in. This is like, that's a good sign. That's a nice bluegill. Here, swing him over so I can see him.
Yeah.
He gulped it too. He wasn't messing around. He totally committed. That's pretty awesome.
Okay, so I'm in the lead for the competition so far with one fish.
It definitely has a firmer feel than like a traditional soft plastic would, but I like it that it's biodegradable. They say it's biodegradable, and that seems good. That's better for our environment. I can appreciate that sort of thing.
Holy cow.
Looks to me like the action isn't maybe quite as good as you might expect from like a super supple soft plastic like the original Mr. Twister, but it's good enough. I mean, it definitely does its thing.
It's already gotten like
got
a million fish.
You've got to move it pretty good. You can't, it has a little different list in the water in it. You got to move it along. If you move it real slow, it won't ripple, but it does its thing. Look at that, another nice bluegill. What do you, actually that's a sunfish.
I'm just gonna lay there. Be free, buddy boy.
Finney's gotten a bunch of bites that haven't hooked up, and I have too. I just keep getting a lot of short bumps, which tells me they're probably green sunfish or something that are chasing it, or maybe small bass that aren't committing to it. I've gotten a lot of bumps, which tells me fish are interested. They're just not committing.
He's a feisty little fella.
Oh boy.
Wow,
It's
that
work.
hurt. Jeez. Smallest fish in the day. So bad. And he's more warm.
Finney, what happened?
Thing sunk into my foot.
How did that happen?
I was throwing it in.
You're
Then,
throwing it in and you kind of whipped it up into your foot?
yeah.
Oof, that's really in there.
Ow!
Ow, what?
Whenever it touches it, it hurts.
I'm sure it does. Here, should we pull it out?
No!
Well, we got to pull it out.
Not right now.
Well, what? We don't want to wait. Let's get it out.
No!
Hey, this is why we pinched down our barbs.
No!
Here, I'll pull it out.
No!
We've got to. We
No.
can't leave it in there.
Okay, we'll go inside then.
Is it in there too much? Here, why don't you let me do it?
Because I don't trust you.
Well, I'm trustworthy. I'm going to pull it out. Just one shot.
No! Well, first I have to see where it's coming in from. Okay, it's bleeding.
We got to get it out of there sooner rather than later.
Why?
Because it'll swell, and then once it swells, it's worse.
But
It's
why?
starting to swell now. We got to take it out.
It is?
Yeah,
How do you know?
because that's what happens.
It is getting puffy.
Let me get it out.
No.
Poor Finn. We'll clean it up. Is it all cleaned up?
Yeah.
Here. There we go. All done. All better. All right, so here's the thing that Finn had in his foot. Can you see it? Can you see it? He might be too close
Hold on.
to me.
Is there blood on there?
No, I don't think so. Here, can you see it on here? I bet if we put it on this bright green background, they can really see it. There. Now, can you see it? So this is a super strong hook for how small this is. Usually little jigs don't have this strong of a hook. But you can see, before we went out, we pinched down the barb, and we're really, really dedicated to that, because if you fish a lot, sooner or later, that's what's gonna happen. Sooner or later, you're gonna get a hook in you. And so here's how you do it. Let me see if I can find one that hasn't been pinched yet. Okay, this one hasn't been pinched yet. All right, so Finney, can you kind of focus in on this so they can really see that barb?
Yeah.
Here, in fact, if we bring it over here, we can put it towards the sky. There. That little thing right there is called the barb. And hook manufacturers put that on there to help keep the fish on, but you really don't need it. We catch fish without this all the time, and if that thing ends up in your clothes or your skin, it is 0% fun. And even with the barb pinched down, there's still a little bump there, and as you saw, Finn did not enjoy getting hooked at all. So Finney, will you hold this and I'll show him how to pinch down a barb? Okay, so you just take a pair of pliers. Any kind of pliers will work. Needle nose pliers work best. These are the Guggen ones. And what you can do is you just put the barb in there and you squeeze. And you sometimes have to turn it a couple times to get the angle right so the little teeth will pinch it down. There we go. Now, here, can we show them towards the sky again? That'll really focus in good and they can really see. See that little piece of metal? It's pinched down now. And it actually makes it easier to set the hook, but you should always pinch your barbs down. It's easier on the fish, and if you're practicing catch and release, then that's good. And if you're fishing with kids it's inevitable that sooner or later somebody's going to get hooked, and then you'll be really glad you pinched down the barbs. If you fish very much, sooner or later you're going to get hooked. Aren't you glad?
Yes, but it still really hurts.
It still really hurts. So you could sit down someday and just take all your terminal tackle and pinch it down, or we just kind of, when we tie one on, we pinch it down right then. The only time we don't pinch it is if we're fishing with a minnow, and then we'll leave a barb on, because if you don't leave a barb on when you're fishing with a minnow, then the fish is gonna swim off the hook. But when you're fishing with a minnow, you're usually expecting to, you know, keep some for the table. So I think the moral of the story is that these do work. I didn't get a chance to try this one. We'll save that for another day. This one here, the curly swim, seemed to work pretty good. What do you think, Finn? You think they work pretty good? What do you think of them?
I think that my dad is crazy trying to use this, but he had to see a bass in sight to probably catch anything with that. But for me, this will go for like sunfish, bluegill, bass, anything.
Yeah, I think you could have caught a bass on it. I think if we kept trying, sooner or later a bass would grab it.
Do you think a walleye would eat it?
Yeah, for sure. I think anything would eat it. A trout would eat it. And
what about a muskie?
That's less likely. This might get a muskie. I think that I was just talking to my coworker who came to ICAST with me, and we were trying to find where he could pick up some worms, and there really wasn't anything right around him. He lives in Chicago, and there's really no place to get worms. I would 100% expect that this would work in those ponds in Chicago. You could definitely use this sort of thing, maybe without the blood. You might be able to use this thing and catch them. And I think this would work in the right situations. I think if we went and threw this around in the river, we'd get walleyes and smallmouth and stuff. It's just, our pond right now is all weeded up, so it's really not the right lure for this situation. You really want more of a weedless lure, and also we're just fishing in the middle of the afternoon on a summer day, so it's not a very fishy time, but I think this passes the test. I think this C8 Superbait has probably got a place in our arsenal. C8. I think it's Q8. This Q8 Superbait has a place in our arsenal. Seems like something that's gonna work.
And this seems like very finny blood.
Very finny boy?
No, blood.
Okay.